surprised last week and they did fantastic. Yay.
So Amber, if I could add one more, Mike would be telling you that his granddaughter had an 8th place and a 12th place in state swimming tournament.
Oh, he would be. He'd have lots to talk about. He would have a list today. So I am introducing Victoria, who is one of the board members for Pet Evacuation. The way I came about this is kind of interesting. Somebody, horrible person, dumped a dog out by our house on the northeast side of town when we first got the really cold weather that whole week, and she was on our cam, and the Pet Evacuation came out, and they were there literally all week trying to trap her. She would come up, we could see her on the cameras. Vicky, who is one of the volunteers, I was messaging with her, saw that she was pregnant when she had turned to kind of walk off of our deck. We had been putting food out for her. They were out there, I'm not kidding, all week trying to catch her, and the coyotes were in. It was just really stressful. They put cameras in our barn to try and catch. It was amazing. And they finally caught her. And that picture that was on the email, like this showed when they first brought her in, and you can see how scared and skinny she was. And then the next week, how happy her ears were all perked up. So I had never heard of Pet Evacuation. They've been around here for about 20 years. That's just a small piece of what they do, but they help with, they've helped with 16 different wildfires in the area, evacuating pets, going in and doing pet rescue. So I thought it was something that was really interesting to find out that there was this organization here in Central Oregon, and wanted to bring them in to talk more about it. And this is Victoria, who's one of the board members.
Thank you. That was a nice introduction. Thank you guys for having me. I feel like I can just end it there because Amber already shared everything and just said it so wonderfully. If you'll give me a moment, I have a couple slides for you guys. I was introduced, my name is Victoria, and I'm on the PED, which stands for Pet Evacuation Team, and PET for short, on their board of directors. During the day, my day job, I work in human resources, and I have for 15 years, over a decade. Currently, so I used to work for a for-profit, and I used to do some consulting, and now I'm in the nonprofit sector, and I actually work for World Vision. So I really love the prayer that you guys do, and I just thought that this was very nice, what we were talking about. I also volunteer with Shepherd's House in my spare time, so I liked kind of the food and the meals, because I do that. So I'm very excited today to be here. Thank you for welcoming me. I'm going to share a little bit about what PET does, why we do it, how you can get involved if you're interested, and what we're going to leave you with, which is the preparation and kind of checklist that we think every person and community member, especially if you have a pet, should be prepared for. If you have any questions at any time, do not hesitate to just shout it out or raise your hand. All right? And if I'm speaking too quickly or too softly, you just let me know. Okay? So PET, let's start off with their mission. PET was founded in the early 2000s, and it was formed as an all-volunteer nonprofit to serve people and animals in crisis during emergency situations specifically. Here's some beautiful photos of just a small portion of our volunteers. I'll have a statistic to show you guys later, but it's about 60 people that there are. And we always get people that are coming in maybe like for a short rescue or something like that. They might just come out. But we have probably 60 core members that are regularly active and involved. PET volunteers receive no compensation for their activities. That includes for personal expenses. So everyone who goes out to trap, to help volunteer at an event, they are all full volunteers. That includes the board of directors. PET has all the equipment it might need for any event. To our name, we own a truck. We have 2 fully stocked equipment trailers, a stock trailer for like horses, and a storage container. And we're very fortunate that Vicki, who Amber you had worked with, was the former president of PET. Now she's just the trapping coordinator. She has quite a large property over by the airport, the Bend Airport, and she holds all of our equipment for us on her property, which we're really thankful for. some of the services that PET offers, because there's actually quite a lot and we're really proud of it. PET provides temporary displacement housing for animals during an evacuation. Our team of volunteers is really great at taking photos. We have quite a lot of photos to share with you guys. But here are some goats, we have some ducks, horses and dogs are really the most common, but you'll see a lot of photos coming up. In an emergency situation like an animal evacuation, if something were in a really large-scale evacuation, especially if it includes livestock, here are just some of the area facilities that we would evacuate to. So PET doesn't have any land to our name ourselves. We partner with a lot of organizations. And Dave, you had asked me a question earlier today too, and you said for rescuing a dog in that case, like with Amber, do we do any direct adoptions, for instance? We don't. PET collaborates with a lot of different organizations that's their specialty. So we'll do like the trapping, the informational, the educational side of it, and we will then turn it over to like humane services or a couple other ones I'll share with to either house them or to help get them adopted. PET volunteers also set up temporary housing for animals in an emergency. So here you'll see we have chickens that are being shown and some temporary fencing and gates that we might set up for folks, or for animals, I should say. Other emergency situations could include sheltering. So this would be for the instance of like a wildfire. If that were to happen, PET has a memorandum of understanding or an MOU with the organizations that are listed here for rescues that are in need, right? So this could be like if we were to rescue a dog, we have an official MOU with these organizations to help us take on those animals. PET also might assist law enforcement in animal rescue, for an example, a puppy mill situation or large animal rescue cases. So here, I can't quite tell if this is an alpaca or a llama, I apologize, but it's one of them. And then you see some puppies there and a horse. In those emergency situations where we might assist with law enforcement, there are special cases like animal neglect where PET will be called out. Here are some of the partnerships that we work with, including Red Cross. You might not be able to read it, but we have Deschutes on here, Jefferson and Crook County, as well as the city of Bend. Last year alone, 2,790 calls that were animal related were sent or called into the Deschutes County Sheriff's Office, just to give you a flavor of the volume of the kind of rescue and things that animals are experiencing throughout the year. Here's a couple more statistics from 2020 to 2022, just the amount of active volunteers that we have, the amount of volunteer hours that have been going in, the number of community drives that we have done, how much trapping as well that PET has been involved in. So we do informational sessions at events, we provide training, and then we also help residential facilities create response plans for their livestock. I should preface, actually, I feel like this presentation was given to me and I'm very familiar with it, but there was no trigger warning on the next one, but I just wanted to share that. Here are just a couple of cases of emergency situations that had happened over the 22 years that PET has been here. You'll see like a wildfire evacuation, some animal neglect with pigs, a wrecked cattle carrier that we were called into. And so really what I think is so great about PET is we have such a large volunteer base. There's no set hours, and it's really kind of these people who are inspired by the crisis situation. They know that they need to be deployed quickly. They're able to help in a situation where you don't need too much training, but just a lot of man hours, right? You need a lot of hands to help with that case. And so it's really fantastic what PET has been able to do over the last 2 decades in terms of giving back and being of help. PET volunteers are all trained in proper handling for animals, care and evacuation. You'll see here a baby cow that's being picked up, a pig, a horse, a chicken. Has anyone here ever been bitten by a pig? Yes, I was too last year. How was your experience?
Didn't hurt.
Didn't hurt.
It
Were
just
you
surprised me.
just surprised? Were you trained prior?
No, it just bit me.
Yeah, pigs bite. For those who don't know, pigs are biters. So there is proper handling training that happens in that. Yeah.
That explains a lot.
The types of animals that PET helps with, we rescue domestic animals, livestock, and we also do exotic animals. So you will see an iguana and a peacock here. I mention this because we get the question asked a lot. PET does not deal with wildlife though, so that is not something that we would be called in for. We are helping with people's pets. Additional services that PET volunteers might be a part of, like I mentioned, we do informational booths at events. We provide training and we help facilities develop those response plans. You'll see a couple pictures here of some of those volunteer events. We also self-deploy to individual events. We do fundraising and a lot of different kind of programs. We also have a bottle drop program, but I understand you guys have yours too. But if you are interested, PET, we have some bottle drop bags here for you to take. And then I'll take any questions first before I go into preparation. Yes?
I'm still hung up on that trailer with dozens of animals in it. Could you say any more about it, please?
I particularly was not here or in that situation when that happened, but I imagine that law enforcement was, a part of that as well. Yeah.
So, thank you.
Yeah, of course. And I'm happy to take any questions, get more information, and bring that back to you guys too. Yes.
So it seems if I remember that this PET started with Jamie Kansky in Central Oregon with Brightside, and they got the program rolling forward, and this is an extension of that?
It's not an extension, so I wasn't aware that it started with Brightside, but I do know that before I had joined, and PET is now its own separate nonprofit. It used to sit with the Humane Society. So it was a part of a larger nonprofit, and this was their branch or their extension arm of rescue. I'm not quite sure what the political or maybe the funding reasons were as to why that was kind of dissolved from it, but PET became out of it on its own and sort of demerged from it and became its own nonprofit, strictly volunteer.
On order, in my opinion, so.
Yeah, great question. Okay, well, in terms of preparation, we have a couple of things that we'd like to leave you guys with as those who might be pet owners themselves. So when preparing an emergency kit, which is what we recommend to everyone to have, not to wait for an emergency to happen, but to have just an emergency kit. This is great even if you don't have pets. I actually, anywhere I move, although now I live in Bend, I have an emergency kit for what I feel like is the natural disasters of that area. So whether that be earthquakes, flooding, etc., there's like a to-go bag that you could keep in your closet or your garage, somewhere that's ready to pick up. So I have a couple of posters here of those checklists. But also there are a couple of checklists online that you can find, so I'll share with you some of those resources. There's a difference between what we would do with livestock versus domestic pets. So these are checklists for your domestic pets. If you have livestock, there are things like we would recommend access to a stock trailer, having your animals with identification on them, and if there's a fire, to open your barn doors and to let those livestock out and then to close them again so that they don't run back in and get trapped. But those are just some small things. Not sure how many people here own livestock, but I wanted to share that. The resources that I wanted to leave you with are two of them. One of them is the Deschutes Sheriff's website that has kits online for evacuation, including for preparedness for when you're evacuating with your pet, and then also the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA known for short. They also have amazing training and checklists and other resources on their website that we highly recommend. If you are so interested in your spare time to go view additional information, we have two videos that I can share with you guys later. Really well done. They were interviews of pet highlights and also just a little bit of information on the work that we do. I also have the brochures out for you guys if you are interested in reading more, but I will be available for questions at the end of this and happy to share my contact information too if anyone has further questions. But that is it.
You service all of Central Oregon, or are you, I think I may have missed that. Is it the
Yeah,
Central Oregon?
that's a great question. They do Central Oregon, so we do like Deschutes, Jefferson, Cook County, but they won't go further outside.
Other organizations do those areas?
I don't know if any other organization does evacuation specifically, kind of for that area. I think we're actually really unique in particular in that. There are some law enforcement agencies that have their own animal wellness arm to them, so it might not be needed. This is, I think, really particular to Central Oregon.
And how many people work in your organization?
Yeah, so our board of directors is about 6 people or so, 6 or 8. And then right now, actively, I think our volunteer list, for regulars is about 60. It stands right now.
60?
Yeah. And I think it was, as you guys saw in 2020, it was much larger than that. I think it was about 100. I think the pandemic for everyone kind of reduced volunteer hours. In addition, fun fact, since I work in human resources, they were talking about how during the pandemic, a lot of people actually increased their volunteer hours. And so there was a fatigue of volunteering, fundraising, and donations with a lot of these causes for the pandemic. And so a lot of people lost their membership basis too because people were dropping out of kind of those volunteers. So I wonder if you guys experience that same thing with your membership rates, but that's why I noticed a decline since the pandemic in those statistics.
We all heard that people adopted animals, let's just say pets, because they had the time to deal with them. Then they went back to work, and sometimes the pets were, let's just say, neglected.
Yeah.
Did that occur in your area? Is that what happened in some cases you have dealt with?
I don't think that neglect is necessarily what pet will step in for, right? I think neglect is more if they're not meeting the needs of the pet, so that's like food, water, shelter, and safety for the animal. If they're tied up outside, if they don't have access to exercise, if they're malnourished. Yes, are there statistics that are saying that during the pandemic there was a lot of pandemic puppies, as they call them? People returned a lot of pandemic puppies, or that those animals were not trained for the time away from their owner after they returned to work. Yes, but I wouldn't say that that's to the level of neglect or abuse. Yeah.
So do you have a working board? Do you have staff?
We do not have staff, all volunteer based, and nobody is paid, and so it is a working board. That's right. Yes.
Right.
Are there events like forest fires and stuff like that where you see a spike in your services?
Absolutely, absolutely. But I think that's mainly because of the connection that we have with law enforcement. Yeah, a lot of it is word of mouth. We are at the volunteer fairs, though. That's originally where I had heard about PET, so that's how we also get the information out.
So Amber said she was unaware of your existence prior to her emergency. How did you come into contact with her, and what happened to the animal in the end?
Yeah, I don't know how Amber specifically, but got in contact. Maybe it was a Facebook post or something like that. But Vicky, our trapping coordinator and former president, is very quick to mobilize. She's retired, and so she somehow got in touch with Amber. But I remember once it got from Vicky to our team, right, and volunteers, what that looked like in that response team. And so I remember that week we have a camera too where all of the pet volunteers can actually log into our cameras. We all have access to it, so that if you are available at that time and you see one of the animals is near that trapping or the crate that you might put out, any one of us could go out and go rescue that pet, close the trap, and etc. So what happened to the dog, I'm also not sure. She has a happy photo of the dog, so I could check my messages and see, but I know she's well taken care of. Yeah.
Can you give us some idea of what a working day for a volunteer is like?
What a working day for a volunteer would look like? I would say close your eyes and imagine what your normal day looks like, and that would be what your volunteer day. And I say that because it's very rare, right? And it's infrequent. You can volunteer on a need basis, so there's no mandate of hours in order to maintain or keep your volunteer status with PET. They really just check about email activation. So when we give you that statistic, that's about how much engagement we're typically getting on our group chat, because that's the main form of channel of how we communicate and deploy our volunteers, and also those who are subscribing to our emails, opening them, engaging with that, and asking to sign up to be a volunteer. So during the day, I mean, you're not doing anything, especially if no pet is in need. Would anyone like to sign up? I didn't even think to ask that. Knowing that, you know, if you want to and you're interested, if you'd like to know more information, you can absolutely find it online. You can ask me after this, and we'd be happy to tell you more. But yeah, it's a very low commitment volunteer activity. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Victoria, if you'll stay up for just one moment, we have a gift for you.
Oh, thank you. I accept this on behalf of me.
Sorry, papers are my way. This is from the local artist. It's a Kiwani pen, and so just thank you for taking your time to come talk to us today.
And maybe in front of the slide, so.
Rather than
backdrop than that. Okay,
Thank you, Barb, and thank you, Victoria.
Thank you so much.
So guys, before you head out, your day of giving, you raised $202. Thank you very much. And in honor of Victoria, our quote, "When I look into the eyes of an animal, I do not see an animal. I see a living being. I see a friend. I see a soul." A.D. Williams. And with that, we are adjourned.